Welcome back to this week's episode of the Campfire Series podcast. I'm your host, Logan Soforenko. We have a very special guest joining us from the original Broadway cast of Spongebob the Musical. Please welcome to this week's theater episode, Logan Jones.
What's up? I'm Logan Jones. I'm a actor, singer, dancer, choreographer, musician, all those things, based out of New York City. I studied at the University of Michigan. I studied musical theater, and I have a minor in global theater and ethnic studies. I'm from New Jersey, live in New York now, and not doing the thing right now, but was doing the thing until right up until everything shut down.
As we are all so not tragically, but patiently waiting for the return of Broadway. But with that being said, you mentioned that you studied at the University of Michigan, big university, big musical theater university as well. Tell us a little bit about, first we'll talk about the audition to get in, because I know auditions to get into musical theater programs are a little bit different now than they were then. So walk me through the audition process to get into the Wolverine program or whatever it's called.
So I initially thought I wanted to go to a conservatory. I thought I was like done with academics after high school. I thought I was just like, I just want to study musical theater and such. And then on a whim, I applied to Michigan. They extended their deadline like a week, and I was like, why not? And I was really lucky. For college auditions, I studied with MTCA, Musical Theater College Auditions. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're a great group. I coach with them now, which is really fun and full circle, helping kids get into college for musical theater the way that I also, had help in coaching, which is really fun. But I on a last second decision, decided to apply to Michigan, got in, went and visited. And it was when I visited that I realized I was like, oh, I like sports. I was like, my high school football team sucked, so I didn't care about them. But Michigan kind of sucks too at football right now. I was like, wait, this is kind of cool. I like this whole like big university thing. There's other things going on. There's other people. It was the best 4 years of my life, without a doubt.
Well, congratulations on going to a big university. I think, I can't relate on the big university feel. I go to a small liberal arts school with 2,400 people, but, I'm always curious because I went to my girlfriend's lecture, at UCSD, which is a huge public school, and there's like 400 people. I felt bad taking up a seat in the lecture hall because there are people sitting on the steps of the hall. But yeah, congratulations on that journey, and walk me through a little bit about the education portion of it and the performance part of being at Michigan and how that benefited you. And then after that, we'll talk about a little bit about the showcase process.
I would say education wise, being in a, university setting instead of a conservatory, I think that as performers, people want to see like full people on stage in a performance. And I feel like the best way to do that is be around like other types of people. And so like, not only are you studying your craft or whatever you're going to school for, but you're also like learning how to be a person those first couple of years at college. And then like our job is to be a person on stage. So that there's so much that comes from just being on your own, learning to set a schedule and all that stuff. What education wise, like the musical theater program, or like it being both, or what
the musical theater side? Obviously, I assume that when you perform now, you have to have things that you learned not only just in school and in college, but before you were performing in Broadway shows.
I feel like the ideas that are taught in musical theater programs across the country are pretty similar, and a lot of it is having teachers and faculty that understand you and that you get along with, and that you sort of like speak. It's the same way a director likes to work with the same actors, and like you have a relationship like that. I think that you should develop that relationship with your school and your teachers, and it really helps to it helps with all of it. I don't know, like it's like I learned how to talk to my other, and I learned how to communicate a story, and all those things. But like that's like any school, I think, you know.
No, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think you said talking to the other. That's a big portion of education. But now, towards the end of Michigan, obviously everyone has to graduate at some point. Walk me through the step you took to get to the real world outside of college. What was that like?
Uh,
Obviously, the move to New York when you made that and landing your first part.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that Michigan sets you up with is a huge network of people who like the majority of the graduating class moves to New York. So, people are taking over other people's old apartments. People are, oh, this building, there's something that opened up. There's a lot of, they call it like the Michigan Mafia. It's a lot of looking out for each other. As far as like professionally, we're lucky enough in Michigan where we had a showcase. Which is where agents and industry professionals will come, and everyone sings their 32 bar cut, their minute and a half long, show everything you can do or the best version of yourself little cut, and then you go through the process of hopefully I was lucky enough to get an agent from it, and that's, I mean, I'm so lucky to have an agent. There are people navigating this industry who move to New York, don't have a network of not only like friends or professional people, don't have an agent, don't have any of those things, and that's a hustle. That's crazy. But being set up with connections and all those things is huge, and I mean, I like to think I work hard. I know I do, but so much of it has to do with being at the right place at the right time.
Exactly. That's the thing. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Just a matter of what people, do with them. Because there's always people, working hard, if not harder than you, no matter where you are in life. And I think that's a great mindset. So congratulations on getting that start, even though, you've probably heard that before. But now walk me through just the benefits of the agent. A lot of people don't know about it. And especially people where I am, I'm in Los Angeles. So a lot of people know about film agents, but most people don't know how important theatrical agents are. And, I've talked to sports broadcasters. They have sports broadcasting agents. Like there's just so many different ones you don't think about. So walk me through what your agent has not only just done for the theater community, but has done for you specifically in your journey.
Yeah, so an agent, like very similarly, they're responsible in, essentially being your advocate in a major way of like finding the shows to audition for. Like my agents will send me auditions. You can go to an open call, right? The shows will have an open call where you go there in the morning and you sign up, and then or you wait in the hall and you wait to be seen, or you get an appointment when it's like, hey, come on Thursday at 12 o'clock and we'll see you. And that's, I mean, beneficial, just like in having, you don't have to commit a whole day to an audition. You can get other things done. You can take a dance class afterwards and plan around those kind of things. The other thing that your agent does is help you negotiate. Like it's tough to, especially when you're getting started, like stick up for yourself. In any industry, it's hard to like stick up for yourself and be like, no, I deserve this money. I deserve this thing. And they help with that. They have all the conversations with the people about, if I'm doing a show in Texas, it's like, hey, you need to make sure that he has a car that he can use to get to and from rehearsal. And he always has priority or something like that. And just like there's a lot of like small things that also that you don't think about before you're in the circumstance, that they're like, oh, we're going to make sure of this, we're going to make sure that you have that. And yeah, they should be looking out for you. And a good agent only gets paid when you get paid, because they take commission off of you. So it's not like I'm spending this money being like, hi, people, please get me work. They're just as interested in me working as I am, because that's how they get their money.
That's the part everybody misses, I think. But with that being said, SpongeBob. Tell me a little bit about. Let's go kind of chronologically here. Getting the part before. Were you cast in the production pre-Broadway, or did you get cast when you were in New York?
So I was a part of SpongeBob since the Chicago tryout in 2016. Um, that being said, the show existed as Untitled Tina Landau project and a bunch of other things for about 10 years before it made it to Broadway. So there were people who had a longer journey with it. Ethan Slater, who played SpongeBob, was SpongeBob since the start. And then there were people who even came around after me and like joined for Broadway. So it kind of picked up people along the way who really fit into the DNA of the show. What was the question? We were talking about just
how did you get the part in your audition process?
Right. So my agent sent me an audition. He's like, hey, Logan, you got an audition for the SpongeBob musical. And I'm a huge SpongeBob fan, like can credit like 50% of my humor to that show. And you try not to get too excited about every audition, right? Like you're gonna have a bunch of them and you're not gonna get most of them. But I was like, oh man, this one's really cool. This would be fun. And so I went into my appointment. So you get a breakdown when you go to these auditions, right? They're like, what we're looking for. And this one, it was like, we're looking for people who can sing rock music and skateboard and juggle and hip hop dancing and this, and just like a list of like an insane list of different things that you need to do. And I was like, I know there's a lot of trained people out there, but these are kind of all the things that I do. And so I went to my first audition. I think I like played the guitar and sang something. I think I sang Fat Bottom Girls by Queen. And then I got a call back for a movement call. And the movement call, I don't know that I will ever have an experience in an audition as just off the walls and crazy as this movement call. So it started with a hip hop dance, we did that. Then it was a tap dance, we did that. Then Tina Landau, the director, who's just visionary, brilliant. I'm so lucky to have worked with her. She had a bunch of music on her computer, and she said, "Everyone go to that side of the room, and I'm going to play a song, and one at a time, you're just going to walk across the room, dancing in whatever way." And then like two people would go across the room, and she just changed the song. And then she just changed the song. So she like it was this like trial of like who's ready to have fun, who's ready at any moment to just be like, okay, this is the song we're dancing to now. Now I'm dancing to that song. We then had to go from across the floor in super slow motion, like we're running away from lava, the theme, of the show. We also had to go in super fast motion across the floor. Then there was at this point, we're like in the audition for like 2.5 hours and you're just like all like best friends and rooting for each other. Then we did like a special skills showcase. So people are juggling, people are hula hooping, people are doing all these different things. And like, there's people with really different skill sets, right? So some people like weren't dancers, but then during the special skills, you're like, oh, they can juggle knives. That's exceptional and wild. Like, that's something that I can't contribute. And then the final thing was the skateboarding portion of the audition. And so I skateboarded very little before SpongeBob. Me and the other boy from my dance studio growing up, we used to skateboard together in our off time. It was very bad, like can't do any tricks, can just like ride and kind of look natural. And so like some people don't skate at all, some people are showing off things, and I rode across the floor and I was like, I remember like the best thing I could do was I could do an ollie, like right jump in the air and do like a 180, half spin. And so I go across the floor, and in my first try, I ollie, 180, I land, and I said, yeah, that's how it goes every time. I was just like, yep, we're just gonna quit while I'm ahead. And I think that Tina was really convinced that I was a skateboarder by that. so yeah, that was the final thing. And so it was, and then it was like 3.5 hours of just doing everything, which was a blast. Um, so then after that, I had another call back for like more of the team, right? The initial audition was just for casting and Tina, and there was probably someone else in the room. I don't remember right now. But then there was like Tom Kitt was in the room, Chris Catelli was in the room, some producers are in the room. And so I had another callback, a work session of just like sort of getting into the script and talking about the characters and try it this way, try that, some notes and adjusting. And then in my final audition, it was everyone. It's Nickelodeon, it's Viacom, it's like Tom Kidd who's got Tonys, it's Chris Catelli who's got Tony, and like sort of intimidating, when it's you and all these like legends of the industry. And in my
How many
final
people were behind the table at that point?
So it was a row of probably like 8 people, and then like probably a row of like 5 or 6 people behind them also. And then also Ethan was in the audition reading as SpongeBob with everyone, which was which was fun. And there was a moment in my final audition that I was confident that I did not book the show. So I was singing Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen, New Jersey. Yeah. And I sang it, and Tina said, okay, do it again, but do it like you're singing for a stadium full of people, like rock concert. And I was like, okay, I can get into this. And I'm like thinking, like, what am I going to do? What do rock stars do? And so I start singing, and I'm pointing at the audience and walking around and trying to feel myself. And I have this thought that I feel like is brilliant. I'm like, I know what rock stars do. They go across the front row and they get high fives from the audience. So I walked up to the table with everyone behind the table, and I stuck out my hands for high fives and walked down the table, and not a single person gave me a high five. And like, I'm halfway down the table. I'm like, oh, I should quit. I can't quit now. I got to finish the bit. I got to commit to this. Oh God, it's going so poorly. And I get to the end of the table, and each person as I passed them was kind of like, oh, that was cute. I see what he was doing, but it was just a second too late. And I get to the end of the table, and Ethan stands up to give me a high five just as I quit on the bit and pull my arms back. And so then Ethan's just like, I was like, well, this was a fun run. We had a good time, but I don't think I booked it. Joke's on me. I did.
How long did you find, or how long was it until you found out that you got it from that moment? How many days and weeks did you have to linger with that, like, oh crap, that did not just happen?
It was probably about a week afterwards that I got a call. Maybe it wasn't as excruciatingly long as some other waits are for like the phone call. But yeah, it was. But I couldn't even be mad about it. I was like, well, like the audition process was so fun that I was like, well, that was cool. I'm glad I got to experience that. And then bonus getting to do a whole show with Tina.
So now we're going back. Congratulations, you're cast. Let's go. Now you all of a sudden you open. Obviously you have your rehearsal process, but when it comes to you actually doing the show, doing a show 8 times a week is not an easy task, and especially because you skateboarded in the show, and it's physically demanding, if I remember correctly. I know it's hard to think past 10 months ago, when the world was normal. You're like, what? But what was it like doing it 8 times a week? And also, just how did you stay not only in shape but just healthy?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the eight shows a week is a wild thing. And so I before SpongeBob, I think the longest contract I had was probably about a month of performing. A little less, maybe like 20 some odd performances, and then all of a sudden you get into this world where like you do your 100th performance. So like that was a thing for me that was a big adjustment. Is like, how do you do the same thing every night and give it life and be excited about it? Like it's hard to believe, like before you're there. You're like, oh man, when I'm on Broadway, I'm going to give it all every night because I'm going to be so excited. And I'm going to be so, just happy to be there that I'm just going to go for it. And there are nights, however, where where you're tired, where real life is going on, where you have problems and you're distracted in that. It's a whole process of like finding those moments that maybe like no one's even paying attention to you during. Like I really developed a love for just like background ensemble. I mean, I always liked it, but it was so much fun every night to just be like, my character, Goldie, has a whole life that they live, and the audience doesn't know about it. They probably don't really care about it. But for me, you get to embody that and live that life on stage for 2 hours, and that was it's super super fun to discover things about characters that no one knows, but it's there for you, right?
Isn't that the best thing in the world? Like back when you did like high school theater and college theater and you were in the ensemble and they said, give yourself a name, give yourself a backstory, give yourself your favorite meal. I feel like that's even more like awesome that you get to do that at the highest level. So congrats on that. And forgive me for going to the door. I had to let little doggo in. That's the beauty of doing stuff from the house. But with that, but with that being said, I know that, doing such a fun show, from that weekend I was there and I saw SpongeBob, it was a very different audience than the shows I had seen. I saw Come From Away on a Friday, I saw Phantom on a Saturday, and then I saw SpongeBob on a Sunday. Each show had different audiences. Come From Away was very, not young, but you could tell there was a certain type. And then Phantom of the Opera, very touristy because it's a tour, it's a famous show, so everyone wants to go. But then SpongeBob, a lot of kids there. And there's it's a lot of young, and everyone's like, oh my God, SpongeBob's on Broadway. SpongeBob, the tour was supposed to come to our touring place at the Dolby Theater, literally right when COVID hit. Right. So, and we were all so excited, but tell me a little bit about what it was like performing for the audience. I know that it's just so different.
Yeah. I mean, having an audience with a lot of younger kids is like a gift and a curse, right? There's like the obvious thing of where like little kids get distracted, and might talk but then at the same time, sometimes during like a very quiet moment when the kid isn't supposed to be talking, they don't have that filter. And so there's a moment, one of my favorite stories is there's a moment right before Ethan climbs the giant volcano ladder wall. If you haven't seen the show, that all sounds just probably insane what I just said. But yeah, there's no other way to describe it. There's a ladder wall, and it's supposed to be it is a volcano. It is. And so he has this like moment right before he goes to do it, and like he takes a breath, and just this little tiny voice in the audience goes, "You can do it, SpongeBob." And like, how can you not just be like, "Oh man, this is the best job in the world"?
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and there just like was moments like that make like the kid talking and not paying attention worth it. And then the other thing like that is like crazy thing about it is like everyone remembers their first show. I mean, unless you're like a baby, like you remember that moment where you saw your first show and you're like, wow, like that was magic. I went somewhere else. That performance was iconic. This was that, and when you're performing for families, so many people also that SpongeBob is such a different kind of product that is bringing in a people who have never seen a Broadway show before. It's just like you're getting to be a part of this experience that is so special. Like it's so special when I experienced, so I can only assume it's so special for all these other people, and getting to be a part of that.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty cool moment. And forgive me if I don't know this right off the top of my head, but you guys performed at the Tonys. Were you in that number, the I'm Not a Loser number? First of all, favorite most underrated song in Broadway. That's such a cool creative song and a creative dance. I literally, because I tried it not identify people. But as soon as I saw Squidward, this is before I knew, who he was as an actor. And I was like, oh my God, wait, is that Gavin, the dude from Mary Poppins? And looking at play, but I'm like, oh my God. And then immediately that number just became my favorite one. And then it was on the Tonys. It was like, what? And you guys got to perform it, and that's like the number in my opinion. You can disagree because you did the show numerous amount of times, but what was it like performing on the Tonys?
The like electricity and excitement of like that night when you're performing I mean, it's just so excited. I mean, it's weird because like for a lot of people, you did a show that you do a matinee the day of the Tonys before you stop and then go to do the Tony performance. So there's like a mix of like it being long hours right leading up to it, and also for the most exciting moment of your life. And there's like great camaraderie between the shows. Like you're walking to the stage and the number that just performed is leaving and everyone's high-fiving each other and so excited. You were awesome. You were so good. You're going to be so good. And that sense of community, you really feel it walking to the stage, walking back, getting off the bus, seeing the other performances. It's just so much fun.
Well, before we wrap up, thank you again so much for meeting with me. But I want to hear just some advice that you have for a lot of performers. I know right now, especially when we have no idea what is going to happen with theater and with the world. And, this is still a school year first. I'm not a high schooler, but there's a lot of high schoolers that are looking to audition to get into programs. So what's some advice you can just give in general?
I mean, my advice that I always say is just that idea that no one else does you the way that you do you. Like that is 100% unique and 100% you. And there's just no way in the world that someone else can do you better than you. So commit to that. Like get hobbies, be interested in things beyond just singing, dancing, and acting, like others, whether it's cooking or sewing or politics or something. Like going back to that whole idea of being a full person, just gaining life experiences and learning. Everyone has something that they can teach you, so meet people and talk to them, and that will just make you more unique, and that's what we love.
I mean, you said get hobbies. I mean, you skateboarded, and there you go. You were doing it in a Broadway show. Now, obviously, there's no set answer to this last question, but what does the future look like for Logan Jones for in the theater world?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think that I'm really lucky where we were talking about the Tonys, like with Spongebob. I recorded the original cast album. We performed at the Tonys. We performed at the Thanksgiving Day Parade. I was in the original cast. We were like, there was all these things about it that are like the checklist of one day I'd like to do this, one day I'd like to do that, one day I'd like to do that. That I feel like I'm not like, there's not a specific thing. I feel like I'm open to anything because I'm not like stuck on sort of specific things I'm trying to do. And so like exploring, I'm trying to write more music. Exploring myself as a creative, not just a vehicle. And yeah, there was a huge nature of collaboration between everyone with SpongeBob, and really anywhere that I can feel that again is where like what I want to be doing, whether it's dancing, music, another musical, a play, film and TV, any of that. Just that idea of working together to create something. It's there's nothing like it.
Yeah, good for you. That's perfect motto, and could not have been said any better. Just being creative in times like these, and just in general, creativity is just awesome. And I appreciate your insight, your input, and your stories.
Oh, of course, no problem. Anytime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Stay safe and healthy. I don't know where you're based, but wherever the numbers are and wherever COVID's everywhere. So stay safe out there.
I'm based right here in my apartment. That's where I'm based.
Are you still in the city?
Yeah, I'm still in the city, but
Okay.
you know, it's all right. We're still here.
That that's true. And normally that doesn't sound like a big deal, but especially right now, it certainly does.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you take care. Enjoy being creative and positive.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. Thanks for putting this out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait to it's going to drop next week as my dogs are barking, but it'll be next week and it's going to be super fun.
Awesome. Have a good one.
All right. You too, man.